updating you on construction and refurb projects around the park, like this miracle in Adventureland. What are they doing at the Matterhorn? And great news from Casey Jr. But first, there's a building missing in downtown Disney. And that right there, that site of the monorail, is something that's going to be repeating itself throughout the rest of this afternoon. But we're on our way to go check out Tortilla Joe's, and I mean, it's essentially gone. What we're looking at is facing the entrance, the proper entrance into Tortilla Joe's, and there's just nothing to be seen. There's one wall back there, the far left wall. That's the only thing remaining, and they were in the process of tearing that down while we were there. This is from the backside. It's just incredible. The backside. There's a little bit of steel there left, I guess, but that's going to be gone in sometime, I would assume. Every time I keep thinking they're going to keep something, it's gone. So, and then walking around. Wow, just walking around this corner. There used to be a whole giant 2-story Mexican restaurant right here, and it's just incredible that it's gone. I know it's just Tortilla Joe's, although I'm sure other people don't feel like saying just Tortilla Joe's, but for me, I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. But it's just interesting that this been kind of a landmark of downtown Disney since its inception. That building was anyway. But now it's pretty much gone. There's like one guy back there doing a little welding. He's separating some steel, and they're going to get ready to tear that piece down as well. So we're, probably a week away from seeing the absolute destruction, the complete annihilation of the Tortilla Joe's building. And then they'll start building the new restaurants. There's going to be 2. Arthur & Sons, which is going to be a high-end steakhouse, and then a barbecue joint, Pearls. No timeline on how long it's going to take to build those. We do have an active vertical construction projects happening in downtown Disney, and that's the Earl of Sandwich. We have entered, or I should say completed, the steel framing part of this project. So they've got the steel frame up, decking and metal studs, so everything is in place for that. So it looks like they're going to begin soon, I would think, applying the facade work to make it look like the concept art that we've seen. The Earl of Sandwich there is the 2-story section, and then on the far left, that's the Carnaby, the bar service. That's going to be on the far left in this image as well. That's the taller of the 2 sides of this building. By the looks of things, I would say that they're probably looking. I mean, we're kind of in the downhill stretch of this now. We're past the halfway point anyway, and I feel like it's possible. It's likely that we could get this done before the new year, by the winter season, I would hope, barring any sort of delays or any issues, which I doubt that there will be. So we're looking at possibly, I'm thinking, by winter, maybe November, December. Meanwhile, next door, just to the left, I've heard reports that a permit has been filed for the Lego store. They're going to be doing some changes to the facade. What those changes could be, I'm not sure, but I would guess that it seems likely that they would try to quote-unquote modernize this building, and by that I mean make it look less like an individual unit, like downtown used to be, full of just individual looking buildings. They're trying to create, I think, some sort of uniformity, either the generic sort of, Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen type facade, or actually that's the same kind of facade we're getting for Earl of Sandwich, or something more like the mid-century modern. My suspicion is more like the Jazz Kitchen and Earl's rather than mid-century modern, like they're trying to do to the ESPN zone, which I have been joking about for a while now. Not a lot to report here. That the progress at the ESPN zone is about as we expected or have seen in the past. They've just got those fake breeze blocks up there, but otherwise it looks pretty much how it looked last week. I mean, it added more of those blocks. Now all those sports figures are now obscured or hidden behind those breeze block facades. Meanwhile, down further in downtown Disney, Earl of Sandwich is still open, but it's going to close soon, though I'm not positive what that exact date might be. The first thing you're going to look for is obviously the destruction of these 2 ticket booths that are still standing but are inoperable at the moment. Those 2 things are going to go hand in hand. When you see this demo happening here at the ticket booths, you'll probably start seeing demo happening at the Earl of Sandwich, or I should say, if when the Earl of Sandwich closes, that's when you should expect demo. They will still keep the other temporary one down there by the ESPN zone. let's get into the park, where we can notice, first of all, that the last remaining section of gates at DCA have been completed. They're open, so there's the DCA side is completely done. We still have one section of gates to update on the Disneyland side, and I think that's everything. We're going to talk about the Grand Californian in a minute, but that's also one of the few remaining, or I think that's it, it's the last remaining array of gates that needed to be updated. So, and then this here again, this is about 9:30 in the morning when we got here on this Friday, and it looks like they've worked a lot of things out. I mean, there are still hiccups. There are still some guests who are trying to figure things out, and still some casts are trying, but the casts are getting better at guiding guests, I think, and that's what's making things move a little bit more efficiently. But I haven't seen any super long lines like we saw a couple weeks ago. Getting into the park, there you go. This is our first sign of the 70th. This is actually opening day. Liz and I were here to celebrate the 70th, along with shooting this construction. But that's one of the key to Disneyland stations. We'll get into that in the video. We're going to be doing a whole video on that. One thing I want to note here, this is a first. Disney is posting these signs up and down the parade route. I saw these on Wednesday and then again this morning on Friday. There's a QR code for performance times for the parade, etc. There are a lot of people lining up for these parades very, very early. We're going to allude to that in our 70th anniversary video. Stay tuned for that, because it's having a weird effect on the park. But they're saying don't try to put your blankets down more than 2 hours before the show, which good luck with that. They've tried that before and it didn't work. We'll see what happens, but they're once more trying to dissuade guests from lining up. There's Goofy in his 70th anniversary costume. Looking for any changes here at the Main Street Opera. So I was hoping that I had like a 5% hope that they might open up the pre-show here for this building, but that's still closed. So we're gonna have to wait till July 17th to see everything. So I'm shooting this construction update, this report on a Friday morning, opening day, official day of the 70th anniversary, and I'm having a hard time separating myself from all the magic and fun that's happening here on Main Street. As I walk down there, there's all kinds of magic happening, but I gotta stay laser focused. So we're doing two shows today. We're doing this construction update, and then Liz and I are gonna do our coverage of the 70th. But man, it is a really cool scene here, and this is just, what, 9:30 in the morning. Happy 70th. So let's head into Fantasyland. Before, I want to go to the Matterhorn, but I want to just update you on this real quick. We saw that box last week, and I said it's nothing. Well, exactly that. This is done, and I believe that sort of that square area that looks a little discolored from the rest is where the actual work was being done, below the ground, below grade, so as expected. So it's probably something electrical or something of that nature, but nothing new has popped up there. So they're done with whatever that is. Let's go to the Matterhorn and update on what we can see from around the mountain, which is not a lot. Oh, there goes the monorail. We're going to have to get on the monorail this time to see if we can get any views down there. But since last week, they have added scrim to that scaffold, so there's obviously an active work site here, most likely working on the rock work along that track side. Another view from around. This is over by Alice, I believe. Can't really see anything. Can't really tell what they're working on. Here we go. Here's something we can see. There's a hole. They haven't started on this, but we've identified a hole in the rockwork where they're either repairing that or they're working on something that is behind it that needs some repair, and then they'll close that section up again, that hole in the rockwork. And then we just saw a workman. Yeah, he's down there on the truck right now, working on the Matterhorn. See if we can't find anything there. We see trees and those red flags, those caution flags, and the cones, or the stanchions or whatever. And then this is on the back side as you approach the mountain from the castle. And I can hear things. I can hear guys working back there, but I can't visually identify what they might be working on. But it does seem to be covering track. This does seem to be covering track, I'll say that. But I don't expect them to be doing any track work, which we'll get to a little later. I don't think any kind of work is being done on the track itself. This is all either interior, the mountain itself, the structure, or exterior concrete or rock work on the exterior. And there goes the monorail again. Okay, that's a sign. This is the third monorail we've seen go by while we're filming construction. So we will take that as a clue to head up to the monorail. Oh, look at that. What a beaut. Just, take that in while we wait for the monorail to arrive. And here she comes. The goal here is to see what we can see from the monorail. Remember, guys, when they did that big Matterhorn refurb and we were on this monorail doing this trip around every single week, and it was great. We got to see a lot because they were working on the actual queue then, and we got to see what they were doing with the queue. I don't know if we're going to get that lucky here. So this is us looking out over the return. That's the track that, after the guests are done with their ride through the Matterhorn, this is the return area. The queue, I don't see anything happening in the queue. Nothing has been dug up or fenced off or anything like that, so not a lot from that angle. Coming around from the Fantasyland side. All right, there's the queue. There's the tracks with the bobsleds hanging out there. It doesn't look like anything has been, oh wait, there's a little section of track right there that appears to be gapped. I don't know if that's a repair. And I'm talking about where the bobsleds launch, just before you make that little right turn and head into the dark portion of the attraction, just as you start going at the lift hill. I'm not positive what I'm looking at there. I don't. It's probably nothing, but you can see they've drained the water from, this is the splashdown on the Fantasyland side. They've drained the water. Tracks are exposed. I don't expect to see any work there. There's that scrim and scaffold in the left corner of your frame. There's some cast. There's some construction workers, right? Wow, look at that. 4 of them it's not obvious what they're looking at or they're all facing out away from the hole, away from the tunnel. So I'm not sure what they're looking at or for. Cool though, right? Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. And then as we pass by those guys, as we keep going, we can see some more. Well, I don't know what those red deals they're laying down. I'll have to research that a little bit to figure out what that is. But again, I don't see any work being done on the actual track itself. This looks to be mostly cosmetic on the exterior area. There's some more crew up there on the top part of the mountain as we come around the other side. Approaching Tomorrowland, turning left around the mountain. Yeah, there's another set of scrim and scaffold there, and there's some guys, there's some construction, there they go, on the other side of that rock right there. Now, what they're working on, I can't tell you. They're standing on the track, though. They are standing on the track. And there you go. That is the Matterhorn. When we exited, I could hear some whooping and hollering coming from that inside the mountain. There's nothing visible, but I could hear whooping and hollering in there. And then one thing I wanted to bring up, there goes the monorail again. One thing, so what is that, 5 monorail appearances? One thing I wanted to comment on, we had mentioned in our last episode that there was a rumored that it was going to reopen in the fall. That rumor was based on what people were seeing on these signs that appear on the walls around the Matterhorn. But it has been explained to me that these signs are actually, they recycle these signs every time they go through a Matterhorn refurb. These signs have existed for quite a while, and it is very likely that they inadvertently left the coming back to fall notation on one of those signs without realizing that it's not a fall refurb. So I walked all the way around the mountain. I didn't see any mentions of fall anywhere. So my assumption, I still believe that this is going to be something like the traditional 2-month refurb, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'm not expecting this to take until fall. Let's go over to Adventureland, update you guys on the Tiki Room, which is obviously still closed. Everything appears to be as normal there, or at least as we left it the last couple of weeks. So there was no sun out today. It was overcast, so we got a better look through the scrim. The scrim is a little bit more clear. Looking into the Tiki Room, you can see some construction workers back there actively working on at or around Tangaroa. Again, I'm sure that's what they're working on, but I cannot see well enough to know what they're doing or if anything has been removed or replaced or updated. So we'll have to just keep trying. And then here's the backside. A lot of guys coming out of there. They probably finished the whole shift of work there fixing the Tiki Room. Here's something new. This is Tropical Hideaway. As you enter Tropical Hideaway, there's some new scrim here and some scaffolding on the upper levels, near the roof line of the Tiki Room building. So that's a new development. I don't expect that to be anything of consequence, but that's something new to observe. Let's get back around the other side though, because here's that miracle that I referenced in the intro. The walls are down at the Adventureland restrooms, and I've never been more excited to update you guys on what's happening at a restroom. But what we have seen, these construction walls have been up for a while, a year and a half, 2 years maybe, because there was that. You guys remember there was some water damage. There was a pipe burst, I believe, and there was some flooding in that area. And ever since then, they've had those construction walls. They've had to rebuild this whole space due to that pipe damage. And what we've been able to see recently was just the wall to the left. But as we had mentioned in previous updates, we did get a ruinous-like structure. A waterfall has actually been built here in front of the Adventureland restrooms. Obviously, a Jungle Book themed ruin. It looks beautiful. This is way more than I just thought we were going to get some new rocks. I just thought we were going to get the same kind of rocks that we had before, but they've actually created something very detailed and rich in texture. There's going to be water right there, and that box of that space, but a lot of detail, a lot of texture, a lot of character has been added here. A little story is being told with the ruins, the vines, and the collapsing structure, just like in the Jungle Book. Some beautiful landscaping here, these plants, etc. There's a tiger down there. They put a tiger. Nobody's ever going to notice that tiger, but they did it anyway, and that's the extra that I'm talking about. That's a thing that as the casual guest walks by, they're not going to know that they have etched a tiger into that front of that rockwork. You have to go all the way in there and look, but they did it anyway, and that's what I'm talking about when I say extra. That's a symbol of love and wanting to take care and do a little bit more just to make it better. So I thank them for that with the bottom of my heart. That is such a great detail right there. And again, and the landscaping looks great. So we've got this collapsing space here, and I'm just going to assume that that's King Louis, right? It doesn't look exactly like him, but it looks close enough, I guess. And that's going to be a waterfall. That will be a waterfall, by the way. I was told that the water is not on today, or that on this day, but they should be turning it on soon. And it looks really, really good. And you can sit on there a little bit. You couldn't hardly sit on it before, but there is a little place for you to sit if you're waiting. That was kind of the popular place to relax while you're waiting for people to use the restroom or something like that. So there you go, guys. It looks great. I want to give Disney a sincere high five and a note of appreciation for that. They went extra, and I hope that they can We're seeing that. We're seeing the extras happen in a lot of the smaller projects, like Pelican Landing or the new gift shops that they opened recently in downtown Disney. So there's been lots of signs of Disney doing extra. I want to see them take that to a bigger scale. Maybe that's what's going to happen with the Tiki Room when that reopens. We're going to stop next in New Orleans Square. The scrimmage scaffold will come down in that area that's above the restrooms back there, next door to the club entrance. And I mean, I don't know. I can't tell. There's nothing observable for me to see if they've done anything different. This looks pretty much exactly as it did prior to the refurb. So I'm not sure and it could, that is where they installed one of the keys for the keys to Disneyland. It's down there below that awning. But other than that, I can't imagine that's what that was for. So unless it was just paint, which the paint does look a little fresher, obviously. So it could have been just paint. Speaking of which, the smell of paint was quite obvious in this space because they were repainting this section of that path back there by the Mint Julep Bar. Another quick stop at Ray's Berets in Bayou Country to report on the grass situation, which is it's still dead and dying. There's not a lot of improvement here. In fact, it's still getting progressively worse. That side over there is pretty dead. It's now even the dead grass is gone on the left side. You can see it's down to just, well, I don't know. I'm not sure what I think there's a methodical thing happening here. I just can't be certain what it is and what they're doing, but I'm sure that they have a plan. I'll say that. I don't think that they're just killing grass. There's something else they need to. They're waiting, or something needs to happen before they can put that grass back up there again. On my way through Galaxy's Edge, I just wanted to observe that there's no kiosks. They have not posted. They're not trying to sell us any of those keys to Disneyland here. It's just some lovely park benches for people to sit on. So that's great. I know there's a little bit of snark here because that upset me before when they tried to sell those Easter buckets, but I'm happy with that. Here we go. We're all the way through to Fantasyland, and I was hoping this would be the case. The first day of the 70th, May 16th, and my wish came true. 2 trains on Casey Jr. Guys, there are 2 trains operating again on Casey Jr. Here comes one. It's easy to tell if they're running 2 trains or not. All you got to do is know that if there's one in the station, there should be one across the river there. You should always be seeing both trains in your line of sight. Almost always. There's usually always one in the station and one visible on the track somewhere. So it's not difficult to tell, is what I'm saying. It's not difficult to tell if they're running 2. The reason why 2 trains is important is because it makes it an automatic go. There is no question about whether or not you should get on Casey Jr. It is always a go. The longest wait, even in the worst case scenarios, you see this huge queue that's going all the way down to Dumbo or around whatever, it's still just going to be 10 or 15 minutes. They can process a lot of guests quickly when they have 2 trains. It cuts your wait time literally in half. And so we have to celebrate. We have to celebrate by going on a ride around Casey Jr. This is cause for celebration here in the Fresh Baked universe. I'm going to celebrate by riding Casey Jr. I can't contain myself.
All aboard! All aboard!
And as always, I like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that if you are picking up the vibe that we're putting down here on this channel, in this report and other reports, and you want to make a trip to Disneyland, be sure to book with GetAwayToday. They are our preferred travel affiliate. We love them very much. They're very knowledgeable. They got everything covered when it comes to going to Disneyland. They will take care of you, and they are the nicest people in the world, the most knowledgeable people. They love our show. We love them. Use GetAwayToday. There's a link in the description to book your travel arrangements here, or even Walt Disney World, Alani, cruise, you name it. Use GetAwayToday and enjoy your trip.
That's Disneyland. Let's cross the Esplanade, get on the Pixar Pal around, and see what's happening at the Avengers E Ticket. There has been some advancement on that work site. It looks like we're getting into the phase where they're going to be the what I call the Indiana Jones archaeological dig phase. We're going to start. We're about to see trenches being dug in the dirt. That's what we saw last week. Those what looked like crates were actually braces to put into the ground to keep the dirt from collapsing in itself, so workers could work in there with ease. So that's a sign that they're getting ready to do some below grade work, be that trenches or even getting ready for foundation, that kind of thing. So it looks like we're about ready to get into that mode of work. In fact, you can see that where those yellow guardrails are right there. That's something that they've already dug in that spot. Now it could be something that I wouldn't call that conduit. That doesn't look like it could be for conduit or water or anything like that. It's something else, maybe a deep dig. That's probably something more related to something vertical will be going there, I believe. But that's our first sign of them getting below grade here at Avengers Campus, which is great. And I think, is that a water truck? That might be a water truck there, that white truck in the middle frame. But let's pan left. No, we're not going to pan left, David? No, we're going to pan right. We're going to pan right. Look for it. We're going to look for anything back there, but we can't see anything on the other side of that salmon building. So let's pan left. There we go. Thank you. You can see, if I'm not mistaken, as we predicted last week also, it looks like they have started clearing space or actually digging, because if my eyes don't deceive me, that looks like a dirt. That looks like they've gone into dirt mode here in that space where they're going to be building the restroom. Perhaps we're going to see more clearing in future reports from the Pixar Pal Around. Can't wait to check that out next week. Can't wait to check out our views from the hotels next week as well. Let's go to the Grand Californian Hotel where the path is open. The walls are down, and the access path between DCA, Grizzly Peak, and the Grand Californian is open. All the tile that we're working on here, this walking surface, has been replaced. I think the bridge has been replaced. There's the new turnstiles, and you can see the little awning. The wood awning has been replaced as well. From the other side, there's the turnstiles, and there's that wood awning. They replaced that during that refurb. So this is now, that's the last remaining new turnstile to be built in the park. Over at the pool, the construction walls are still up around those two planters to the left and right of this space. A lot of guys moving materials. Oh my gosh, it's like a clown car. A lot of guys moving materials. Scrim and scaffold are up over that Hearthstone Lounge. I don't recall if that was there before or not. This is the first time I put eyes on it, but that space is still under development. And then our last stop at DCA is going to be the Disney Junior Theater, which is open. They are now doing shows featuring the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. That facade you're looking at there, that is not the permanent. That's just something that they put over it while they're trying to finish whatever it is, the design of that thing. That's absolutely a temporary situation. But the show is open. Next show is at 2 o'clock on this afternoon. So that's good news for fans of the theater, for their kids, and they didn't take them long to turn that over, which I'm happy to see. And with that, we will update you guys on the current status of all the closures, current and upcoming, around the Disneyland Resort. Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln looking to be reopening in July 17th. We have no date. Oh, we do have a date for Pixie Hollow for the Tinkerbell meet and greet. Now we're seeing June 28th, or reopening on June 29th, I should say. Closed until June 28th. The Tiki Room, no date as of yet, so we're looking at least June 30th for that to reopen. Matterhorn, also no date on the refurb calendar, going as far into the future as June 30th. Chippendale's Gadget Coaster is closed, will be closing on May 19th, set to reopen on June 13th. The Tiki Juice Bar is going to close for a couple days. It's going to close on the 20th, reopen on the 23rd. And actually, there's nothing on the calendar for DCA. So that's great. There you go, Fresh Baked. That's our construction update for this week. I do hope you enjoyed. While you're here, I encourage you to watch more Fresh Baked, including our coverage of the 70th anniversary party that's happening right now. It's actually kind of fun. We actually had a really good time on Friday, so stay tuned for that, or watch that if you don't mind. And then we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked